At the same time, I wanted to give everybody an update on the Boeing whistleblower situation. We brought everybody the news previously that the major Boeing whistleblower in the midst of an investigation into the company had been found dead in an alleged suicide. We are now getting some information, though, to possibly expand this into a criminal investigation. Let's put this up there on the screen. According to the Boeing whistleblower, a close family friend of John Barnett said that he predicted that he would wind up dead and that a story would surface that he had killed himself. At the time, he told his friend not to believe it. He says, quote, she says, quote, "I know he did not commit suicide. There is no way." And that he had told her allegedly, quote, "If anything happens, it is not suicide." She says that she has known him for a long time, over the years, get-togethers, et cetera, for more than 30 years, that she had followed his career, and that one day, whenever he needed help and he came to see her, they had talked specifically about his upcoming deposition in Charleston, where he was found dead, and said that after he had filed an extremely damaging complaint, he had specifically raised the possibility that he could have been murdered. So this is pretty extraordinary testimony there, Krystal, and this has expanded into major inquiry across the nation as we've seen a spate of more recent incidents with Boeing. Our team put together this graphic. Let's put it up there on the screen. I mean, this is stunning. This is just in the last few months. So it started January 5th after the Alaska Airlines door plug blew out. But even just look at, the last week or week and a half or so. On March 4th, United Airlines, an engine burst into flame right after takeoff from Houston, forcing an emergency landing. All of these involve Boeing, by the way. On March 7th, a tire fell off from San Francisco International Airport and returned to the San Francisco airport. March 8th, a plane rolled off the taxiway into the grass during its landing. March 11th, there was a mid-air hydraulic leak which forced takeoff, come back to Sydney. March 11th, there was a major incident where a number of passengers were injured, LATAM Airlines, where there was a nosedive in the movement of a flight deck seat. And then on March 13th, a tire blew out, taking off from DFW Airport. Now, some of these may appear more routine, and maybe they're just getting increased scrutiny, but nonetheless, the scrutiny is well-deserved because of the current criminal investigation into Boeing, and now the death of this whistleblower, who we played previously video of him, noting all of the problems inside of the Boeing company that led to the quality setbacks, not only that we saw in the previous investigation, but now the current investigation to what the hell happened with Alaska Airlines, Krystal.
It's mighty convenient for Boeing that this man is dead.
Yeah, that's true.
That's all I'll say. Mighty convenient for them. Because think of how much they have to lose. And John Barnett was very credible. In fact, some of the previous allegations that he had made had been backed up by investigations. For example, he had said that sometimes they would pull parts that had been deemed non-conforming, that were defective in some way. They would pull parts off of the scrap heap and they would install them. And lo and behold, when they did an investigation, Boeing was unable to locate dozens of non-conforming parts that are supposed to be specifically tracked for exactly this reason. We're now seeing, with regard to the incident of the door plug coming out mid-air and endangering the lives of every single person on board that plane, the surveillance footage of, the maintenance that occurred on that is gone. It's been taped over. And somehow we can't locate the records about the maintenance that happened with that door plug. So this is an incredibly precarious moment for Boeing, for their executives, for everyone who has been involved in recent decision-making. And, some of those problems are becoming increasingly manifest from a business perspective. Put this up on the screen, Saagar. You really flagged this as quite significant. United has said, hey, we're out. Stop making these MAX 10s. We don't want them right now. The plane maker has agreed to build MAX 9s instead. The airline confirms it's in talks to substitute some Airbus A321s instead. So, this is quickly escalating into it's already a massive issue for them. And because John Barnett had such specific knowledge, because he had worked there for so many years, because some of his claims had already checked out, I think he, in particular, was a real problem for them. And there needs to be a fulsome and independent investigation into the circumstances surrounding his death.
Yeah, exactly. And this also what jumps out to me from reading about Barnett is he loved the company. I mean, he worked there for a long time. He was a whistleblower because he was so upset at the cost-cutting maneuvers that were taking place that he felt was undermining safety for the aircraft and for their customers and ultimately for passengers. And let's not erase too. This is becoming a major business problem. Already, the United Airlines CEO has had to issue like a general call to all passengers. He's like, "Don't worry. I know we've had a lot of problems recently. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Even if you're flying on a Boeing aircraft, everything will be fine." I personally have seen, I've had friends who've been flying on the 737 MAX 9s and 10s and, posting on Instagram, being like, "That's it, everybody. I'll see you later. I guess this is my last flight." I mean, this has really entered into the public consciousness and to the flying public, where previously, I mean, who the hell even knew? Most people don't even know what type of aircraft that they're stepping onto. They just get on the plane and they go where they're supposed to. Anytime you're entering that way and in a negative association is really terrible for your company. The other thing I want to come back to is that what this is again is exposed, which we talked about previously, is exactly what Barnett warned about, which is that the Boeing pursuit of shareholder profit has dramatically undermined the performance at a hardware level of the company. Is that they sold off Spirit Aerosystems, which is the supplier that made that door plug. It appears that there was a problem both on the Spirit Aerosystems side and on the Boeing side in terms of quality checks. We've had a complete lack of government regulation where Boeing is allowed to self-certify its own planes for safety, which is insane. I mean, how can you possibly have a system like this? We were thinking, Krystal, we were like, hey, has the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, said or done anything about this? Beyond the cursory, no, not really. So where the hell is Pete? That's another big question, too.
That's a constant question for me. He's in power, which is very unfortunate. That's where he is. I also have to highlight this psychotic, really truly sociopathic headline from the New York Times about this whole situation. Listen to this. This is from January 30th, but nonetheless, I wanted to highlight the way that these things are thought of. Boeing faces tricky balance between safety and financial performance. Tricky balance.
Right.
Do we keep people alive or do we maximize our shareholder returns? I don't know. So hard to say. It's a tricky balance that we have to strike. And of course, the unfortunate reality, Saagar, is we see that they were not striking that balance at all. They were moving explicitly in the direction of financial performance. That's how a Nikki Haley gets on the board there. Boeing moved a significant part of its airline assembly to South Carolina because of their right to work status and the fact that they were so anti-labor. That was a big part of drawing them to the state. That is where John Barnett worked and, was observing these failures in terms of safety and making sure that every plane was assembled incredibly precisely and making sure that it was really safe. And then you're right to point to also, this is a Boeing issue, of course. It is an industry-wide issue in a lot of ways. And it is a government regulatory issue because you can't let the fox guard the hen house. And that's exactly what had happened here over years and over bipartisan administrations. Trump did push through some a further FAA deregulation, but this has been a trend multi-decades in the making. It is, you're right, absolutely insane that Boeing would be able to self-certify the safety of their planes. But that's precisely the way that many of these agencies the direction that many of these agencies have gone over the neoliberal era, where they outsource expertise. They no longer have either the funding or the technical know-how to really do these functions themselves. And so they just assume industry is going to be honest with sometimes completely catastrophic consequences.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.